folks, so last week you might remember we did the little cameo scene at the bottom there. That's the main part of it. Got some junk in the corner, office for the workers to fill in paperwork and bits and pieces and what have you. Portaloo, bins and some discarded pallets there. We've also got some overgrown grass and what have you. I might add some more to it as time comes. Pile of aggregates there, being loaded in by the mini digger into the network rail. Little wagon there, so it's a nice little scene now. I need to move all the discarded nonsense. So, at the front of the engineer sidings, what we're going to do is make an entrance, if you will. So the wagons, lorries or whatever, coming in to load or unload for whatever reason, can get over here. So we've got a little bit of static grass down here, but that's just going to come off. All this is loose, look. So you can just go ahead and take that off. All this comes up. This is that Jarvis stuff. Doesn't really work that well, so we're going to clear this whole area up. Add some hard standing with the old DAS modelling clay technique, which I used on a previous layout. And we'll go from there. Let's get going. Okay. So this is still on there pretty hard, that's fine. But this loose stuff can come up a little bit more. Just to give us a bit more of a clear edge. We can always reballast this. Got some more bits and pieces. That's all the loose stuff taken up. This stuff's down there pretty hard, so there's no real need to dig that up because the hard standing is going to go over it. Between the tracks, there's a few bits that are stuck up, so we're just going to, get those out if we can. Then we're going to have the hard standing stop just before the point. Probably come around to about there, and then down here. Alright. Then we'll just re-ballast on there or something, just to cover it back up. Because of how DAS clay is, you need to put some adhesive down first before you put the clay down, otherwise it just lifts. So first things first, get some PVA. This is just Evo stick. It pays with PVA to get the decent stuff. The cheap stuff from Poundland is just too watery. It takes absolutely ages to go off, dry, and this stuff works pretty well. So we're going to first roll out the little section of hard standing. You want the clay to be about the same height from the baseboard to the rail, so a couple of millimetres really, about 3 or 4 mil, about that thick. And then you can once it's dried, we'll just sand it down and make some grooves for the wheels. So let's get started. Once you've got the PVA down, you've obviously got PVA in the centre of the tracks as well. Try and get as smooth as you can. The rails are obviously dirty, so I'm just going to give them a little bit of a wipe back, just to make clean up later on a little bit easy. Let's rub my finger across it for now. Because it's PVA, once everything's down, we can give it a good clean with a track rubber. Right, let's get the modelling for you. So for the actual hard standing, use the lorry as a guide. We're going to need about 6 by 6, maybe 6.5, 7. Yeah, I think we'll go for 7 by 6. So we have our biscuit of DAS clay. We're just going to lay it down to the area in question. So what we need to do, There we are. Then we'll get the old rolling pin, just to flatten it down. Get it right into the track there. A bit there as well. Cut away the bit at the end there. There we are. And then we've got this curvy edge here. Get the old ruler out. Lift out that piece there. Mark with rolling pin again. Just gently, gently, gently. There we are. Right. Now we've done that bit. Push it flat to the rails. What this will do is it'll just take off that top layer and leave underneath it perfect layer of clay. As long as you've used a decent amount of PVA, like that, there we are. And because of the nature of the clay, you can just put a little bit in here, like that. Then we can get the rolling pin again, roll it out, and what you get now is you can either leave it as it is or put your finger and you can eliminate those cracks, so you can't actually see the joints. Now we're going to sand this down anyway, so we're not too worried at the minute. As long as the rails are mostly visible, you can just rub the edges down the outside of the rail just to stop the wheels from riding up over it. Just a little bit, and it just blends it in. Over there like that. There we are. So we now need to make some grooves for the wheels. Old set of wheels with the thick flanges. I'll stick it in the track there and run it down the sides. There we are. And what that will do, because these are the really old style thick ones, that'll give us a lot more room in the middle there. Once that dries, we can sand it down and we can just run another blade down the tracks we've made. We'll let that dry, let it go off, and we'll come back to it later on when it's a bit harder. In the meantime, while this PVA is still wet, we're going to make use of that and put some scatter down. Okay folks, it's now early in the morning, Thursday, and the clay is drying nicely, still a little bit soft, so if we've got to sand it now, it's still a bit too soft. I'm trying to get rid of these edges, so we need to wait a little bit longer, and that is now properly set, and the grooves on the wheels are fine. I tested out the 37 on there. I tested out the, where's it gone? I tested out Evening Star on there. Geo works fine. These work fine. The Gronk works fine. So I'm happy with that. So it's good enough to take on modern wheel sets. So Possibly. I quite like the colour, to be fair with you. I was going to paint it, but I actually quite like the finish of that. It's sort of half and half, and it's looking pretty good. I've just put all these little extra dents in it. Just with the end of my fingernail, just like that. Bit of weathering on there. Grass and dirt and what have you to bed it in further. Possibly some handrails. I don't know. I'm not too sure about that, but we'll see how we get on. Okay folks, it is now Saturday morning. Last night when I did the blog, after that I started adding the grass to it. Now I've only added at the minute dry grass, which is dry now. And that's stuck down with Liquitex. As you can see, it's stuck down pretty well. So what we're going to do, because it's 10mm grass, remove the excess. Taking a razor, I'm going to give the grass a trim. Then when we get the hoover out later on, the excess will get sucked up, and what's left behind will be nice, proper length, dried grass. I think that looks a lot better now. All the excess has been sucked away by the hoover, which further helps the grass stand on end. Quite pleased with that. Over there, little bits and pieces. And we can move on. Jolly good. Now then, there's been a lot of chat this week about models. These chaps here, alright, from DCC Concepts, saying that their decoders are fantastic and a better alternative to the cheap Chinesium-made Lays DCC decoders. Now, in my personal experience, the Lays decoders have been nothing short of, well, less than desirable, shall we say. Every loco I've fitted them to has always resulted in the same, and all the problems I had have also seemingly gone away as well. Now, I did have some Lays Stylites fitted too, and they're really big, quite big things really, about that big really, and bulky, and I had trouble closing the lids and the body shells of some locos, in particular this 37. The Stylite was so bulky it wouldn't actually fit inside the loco itself, so the body would not close, which of course is less than desirable. But cool thing about these is, even though these A model ones are quite a lot smaller than the Lays ones, they're actually just as powerful. And when I use the ESU programmer, well, I actually don't use ESU programmer, I use one called JMRI, but it gives you access to all the information on the decoder. You can change how long the stay alive works for, and on maximum setting they both last the full 10 seconds. So I'm actually going to do a demonstration now as well. I've got Evening Star, which is a brand new Bachmann. It's got a train of just, quite a small train of cement wagons behind it. It's sat on this less than perfect track work as it is, and it's also DCC sound fitted with a ESU lock sound version 5, so it's a powerful decoder, powerful speaker and everything else. So we're going to get the lights on, we're going to get the engine on, and then I'm going to make life hell for this little thing in a minute. So what we've got here is tissue paper on the track and on the track there. Now bear in mind that the Stylite's job is to get the loco over points, specifically this little bit here where power might not be coming down the check rails or the blades. So realistically you've only got that much track where there's potentially no power, which is still shorter than the piece of this tissue paper. You've also got a second piece there, which is about the same distance between the front bogie and the rear bogie. So there will be a point where this locomotive is completely unpowered from the track, which is, you know, it's going to be rare that you have a setup that'll happen, but it might happen. You might have dirty track at one point and you might have poor point work at another. It isn't much further distance, so we're going to set this going at a crawl and we're going to see what happens. I think you'd agree that's pretty bad, that's pretty brutal, and that's more than your loco should ever need to deal with in terms of dead track. Look at the chaos I've created now. Look at this. I suppose that's one way to clean your track, isn't it? Marvellous, revolutionary design. Oh, good grief. Oh no, the terribleness, the chaos. So there you are. About half the size of the Lay's one, and arguably more power. Certainly with that setup I had there, that's more dirty track than your loco should ever need to deal with. I would suggest that if your track is so dirty that you've got connectivity, or so to say, power continuity issues, so the toilet roll test, as I shall now trademark that, then I would suggest you need to clean your wheels on your track. But when you look at the size of a point, even here, look, you can quite clearly see that that loco, at a crawling pace, prototypical crawling pace I might add, would quite easily get through it, no issues at all. I think the proof is certainly in the pudding there, so there we are, guys. If you do have a Lay's chip, and you absolutely do need to use it, I do think it's easier, rather than having the tail on there, if you just shorten the wires and just have it hardwired into the model in question. Just be very careful that you don't slip. I am doing this one-handed, but you just want to shorten the wires here. Then, oh! I appear to have slipped and destroyed my decoder. Oh, ball.